Hello and welcome to the Boost Numbers podcast. On this podcast, we talk to small businesses, entrepreneurs, and leaders about the challenges and successes they have growing their small businesses and trying to boost the numbers that matter, their leads, their sales, and their revenues. Today, I'm extremely excited to announce our first podcast where we're hosting Zach Chmael, the founding head of marketing for a company called Averi. Let's dive right in and talk to Zach and see how things are going at Averi. Enjoy the podcast. It's super exciting to have Zach Chmael here, who's the founding head of marketing for Averi. And we focus on this particular podcast on kind of the sales and commercial marketing side of small businesses and some of their challenges and wins, and try to share some knowledge in that field for others, which is a great fit for what Averi is doing based on what I know. But I'll certainly turn it over to you here, Zach, in a moment to introduce yourself and your company and what they do, because I think it's very topical around AI and the change in marketing and sales kind of workplace. So super excited to jump in, and we might as well start there if you'd like. Zach, if you want to just introduce yourself, and then love to hear a little bit about Averi and what it does and what solutions you're tackling.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for having me, Bill. I'm really pumped to be here. I guess we can kind of start from the top with Averi. It was built by a group of us who have spent a number of years working in sort of the big marketing agency world, right? So for years, I worked on accounts for Pepsi, Molson Canada, kind of got my whole experience with WPP and the other major agencies working in the city. And our founder kind of had a similar upbringing in the world of marketing. And he actually, a couple years prior to Averi, kind of ventured out to start his own company, and that company was called Select Few. And his idea was essentially building a system that helped companies who otherwise wouldn't be able to necessarily hire full-time marketing teams or more expensive agencies basically have access to pre-vetted marketing experts so that they could build their perfect fit teams and really help to scale their marketing. We were specifically focused kind of in that startup SaaS space. And from there, with the rise of AI, we kind of saw this opportunity to build and what we're now calling, and we'll talk about it a little bit further, the Marketing OS. And basically, Averi is an integrated platform where you have an AI known as Averi to basically help you strategize and essentially help you build your perfect fit team. So we have a vetted network of experts all within the platform that Averi can introduce you to based on your needs as you're, talking back and forth with Averi as you're building out your strategy. You might realize, okay, we need a Facebook ad specialist, and Averi will let you know during the conversation, and you could obviously, take the prompt or leave the prompt based on what you want to do, and then Averi will essentially fit you with perfect options based on what you're doing in terms of your company size, your brand, etc., that you can then review and then build your team, integrate them, work with them all on platform with Averi, so they have all the background knowledge that Averi has on your company, everything like that. It all basically just works in one execution operating system, essentially.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's as a small business, you're trying to find help with everything, and how do you find specific, expertise? Is that the sole core of the Averi Marketing OS, or is it also serving other functions for these companies?
Yeah, it's essentially, we're looking to build a platform, the AI Marketing OS, where you can essentially do anything that you need in terms of your marketing plan on platform. If you need AI to help you strategize, write content, all of that's managed and handled with Averi, and you're able to then build out your team and, turn on and turn off experts as needed, essentially, based on where you are in your campaigns, company growth, anything like that. Just gives you full autonomy and flexibility to essentially tap and utilize, seriously vetted experts at a moment's notice and turn them off when you don't need them.
That's awesome. So is there like an e-commerce kind of component to that? It's kind of an old term, but in terms of finding these experts, is it, are they independent contractors, or is it a mixed group? Do they work with Averi? I'm just curious, if I was the small business and I engaged and I signed up for Averi and found these folks, are we collaborating through the platform? Am I just connecting with them and then I kind of take it offline? I think you said it's all through the platform.
Yeah. So they essentially have to go through a rigorous vetting process to become an Avery expert, essentially. And then everything that you do in terms of your engagements with them will happen all on platform. So that they are
Gotcha.
able to access your Avery, because every Avery is trained unique to you and your business and your brand. And then any experts that you activate, you can essentially enable them to utilize your Avery trained on everything that your brand has, so that it makes it easier for them, and then everything's also managed in one place. And you also have the ability to decide whether or not those conversations with those experts are going to impact Avery's core brand training, like your main ecosystem, or if it's something where they can basically utilize all the information in Avery's core memory, but not have any impact on that memory moving forwards as well.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. You know, I think you've hit on it. So there's, this vision that you guys shared when you founded the organization and are connecting and finding these folks. But then there's this AI component. It's Avery.ai, and I know that in our past conversation, you're doing a lot in that space. So you're connecting people and experts and solving that issue in this space, which is great. But it's also coupled with an AI backing. Share some thoughts there on kind of how you saw that trend coming in. Specifically, you've got the people, you've connected them, but where does the AI, quote unquote, AI component fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. And AI is a really hot term right now, and everybody's using it. And anybody who's worked within the marketing space, I'm sure, can relate to this. You build out projects or train GPTs in ChatGPT based on your clients, right? So you have to spend a number of hours, days, weeks, even, basically training a model to operate as an assistant to you on any marketing work that you're doing. Essentially, Avery is built from the ground up by a team of marketers trained to be a master of marketing, essentially. So the core knowledge is there for Avery, and your responsibility is really just to help train it on your brand. And a lot of that happens in the upfront. I mean, before you even get started with Avery, there's a lot of different files that you can upload, core things that you can basically teach and train Avery on before you even get started. And then every conversation that you have moving forwards, you have the ability to then save it to core memory, and it's all basically continuously generating and learning as you interact with it. But it has these core elements and thinks like a marketer in the way that these other platforms just don't have.
Got it. So that's one of the areas I know we talked about in the past prior to this session was kind of this idea, and I may not be saying it the way you do, but kind of the AI plus the people, or the people plus AI rather than an either or. So you're connecting folks to the platform and then supplementing it with, the bespoke kind of AI models for the clients as needed. I'd love to hear a little bit about your thoughts there, because you've shared in the past, this idea of it's not an AI replacement. You're going to need people, and that's a trend that's emerging, is personalization, and am I dealing with people or just bots, and where do you find that productivity / human interaction balance?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's a hot topic across industries right now, and the focus seems to be this idea of optimizing people out of the room, and we want nothing to do with that. Essentially, we think that AI should be used as a means for optimizing people, making you feel superhuman, so that instead of removing people from the room, because there are elements, especially when it comes to marketing and storytelling, that you need natural human intuition and creativity, right? I mean, especially nowadays with the rise of AI slop happening everywhere across every social platform. The brands that are going to really stand out are the ones that actually feel genuine, and people can see through that, right? I mean, we all have like that natural BS meter internally, where we can see something and say, this just doesn't feel genuine. It might be structured perfectly, have actual, perfect punctuation, but it just feels soulless and empty. So, the idea for us is really to give people a platform that helps them, really optimize themselves and remove some of the remedial elements of work, while also tapping into, the core human elements that are just required to be able to do great marketing and have great storytelling throughout that process. And for us, we don't want to remove humans from the equation. We want to basically give people the ability and the opportunity to have more time in life for the things that actually matter, because working with platforms like Avery, makes it so that you can spend less time in front of your computer, honestly.
Yeah. I think I just saw a posting you guys did on your LinkedIn about this topic. If you're working 80 hours a week and burning out, you're not doing something right. There's a better way to go. So I love that concept of, like I said, it's kind of a hot topic, that emerging trend of let people create and just make them a lot more efficient at it using, the tools that are emerging versus one or the other.
Right.
How's that been received? I know you shared you're growing, you're getting users onto the platform. Recently announced, I saw, round of funding. Congratulations, that's a huge accomplishment. What would you say that your current users echo around this concept, of, hey, you're making me more productive? That would be my hope coming in if I was using Averi, based on what you said, is, hey, I am way more productive, but I'm still here and I'm able to just do more. What would customers say about it on average, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, people are excited, right? It's giving, people and companies, startups, maybe that necessarily wouldn't have the opportunity to work with these types of experts, or even not necessarily have the access to the expertise and know really how to get started, right? I think a lot of companies, of all sizes even, have ideas of what they want their brand to look like, and what they want to do in terms of scaling and growing, but they don't necessarily have all of the tools, knowledge, expertise, or really the ability to do that in-house. And working with a platform like Averi really gives them the opportunity to, talk with essentially like a team member strategist who can help, you can bounce ideas off of, you can tell them, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. And Averi has the knowledge and expertise to say, this is how we're going to approach it in a step-by-step, really tangible way. And here are three key experts that you could add to your team without too much overhead and without too much commitment, that can really help you scale and take this from, just an idea that you throw around all the time in the boardroom to something that you're actually executing on really quickly, which I think is unique in the marketplace.
Yeah, I would agree. It's that kind of bias towards action, but that can be, particularly the area you're focused in, even if you want to tackle an email campaign or a LinkedIn campaign, or do I do a podcast? What do I need to do as a business to get out there, find customers, get our message out? It could be paralyzing, if you're not enabled with the tools or you don't have the expertise. So it just helps get that motion, that forward motion, incrementally going for these companies. So I would agree it'd be a powerful tool set. Around that, where are you guys at today? Like I said earlier, round of funding. One question I did want to ask, just from your perspective, was you get funded. I think it would help other folks that are in a similar situation, either trying to get there or funding. How do you guys look at that without too many specifics? Is 90% of that going to go to development because you just got to keep up with, the technology and really enable folks? Is it, hey, we need to grow and hire? Is it all? I'm just curious how you guys think about, okay, we have this round of funding, now what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, our entire philosophy about scaling is to really do it intentionally. We still have an incredibly small team. I mean, for us, now that we have the ability to really focus all of our time, most of us were doing this and then also had jobs on the side. Now we can actually fully throw ourselves into this. We're wanting to make sure that we develop an experience that is incredible for our users. So the biggest thing for us is, we're immediately working on, for example, Plus Mode is coming out next month, right? And that will be, a paid version, incredibly cheap, but paid version that's going to have things like Create Mode. It's going to be inclusive of our new AGM Synapse model, which is a proprietary architecture for our AI. So everything that we're doing right now, and we're basically using the time and money to make Averi as good an experience for our users as it can possibly be. And then from there, we can think about things in terms of scaling and other additions, things like that. But right now, we just want to make sure that Averi is exactly as advertised.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Software can be it is an endless investment, but being targeted around, what the customers needed. That would have been my guess, especially where you guys are in the beginning. That's where you got to get the solution right. But as you onboard customers, now you need a larger organization and customer support and all that good stuff as well. So
endless.
Yeah, endless. But again, congrats. That's a huge, huge milestone, which will fuel growth for you guys. So, in terms of, you've secured funding, you're growing some, I know you hit, I think, a milestone on users recently and are growing there as well. I'd love for you to share a little bit about, what's kind of working, based on this vision and, the goals you've set out, the area you want to play in, the AI plus people kind of approach. What's working well? What are some of the things you're like, if we could do that a little better, it'd be great.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of what's working well right now is just the way in which we're talking about ourselves. I think is a huge, key differentiator, especially like we've even talked about earlier in this pod. But all of the hype around AI removing tasks essentially and getting rid of people, right? And we're kind of, throwing a middle finger in the air to that a bit. And we're talking about the fact that, we're not going to sit here and promise you, you know what, you don't have to worry about your ads ever again. You plug it into this platform and it just handles all your stuff, and you're gonna, do 5x in revenue generating. Because frankly, I mean, it's kind of BS, right? I mean, people are going to utilize those things, and especially, as that becomes even more democratized, like we're seeing with written content, the advantage is going to be gone, right? Because then everybody can put out ads so quickly, and they're all going to be generic and stale. So we're kind of really betting on the long game here of, using AI to help optimize people while still involving human creativity at the core. And I think that's really resonated with people, especially those who are using our platform. I mean, they're loving the fact that, they're still able to be involved. And it's really something, and that's why we talk about ourselves as really this, AI marketing OS, because it's really an operating system that you log into your computer at the beginning of the day, and you're having your day, and you're just kind of working with Averi on the background. You could, even just throw bounce ideas off of Averi, and it's things that it's going to continuously remember. It's going to then impact your strategy moving forwards, and then other members of your team that are activated as well will be, have access to that proprietary knowledge based on what you as a founder are thinking. So I think those elements for us, are really crucial, and that's definitely something we're going to continue to focus on as we build and expand.
Yeah, that's great. So you kind of answered. You got a plus, Averi Plus coming out as you expand. Yep. So if you look 6 months out, and then maybe like 2 years out, don't want to go too far. It's too dynamic of a scenario. But just curious where you see yourself. What's on the horizon 6 months? Kind of near term, and then in a couple of years, based on this vision, do you have any kind of big ideas that you'd like to see come forward in terms of your solution?
Yeah, well, first, in 2 years, we'd like to still be operating. That would be awesome. Obviously, don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. But no, the big thing that's really on the horizon is end of July with Plus Mode coming out. Yeah. And we're going to be doing a huge rollout with something that we're calling Create Mode, which I can't give away too much on here, but is going to be pretty incredible in the sense that you're going to have the ability to literally create things from blogs to visual ads to videos, all on platform. With Averi, holding your hand isn't the right word, but with Averi as like a core strategist with you the entire way, and the other members of your team as well. So we're really excited about that. We're going to be doing a huge launch there. Just this coming week, we have AGM Synapse coming out, which is our own proprietary architecture model. It's essentially Averi on steroids. It's going to really, change the way our users are able to interact with our AI, and so we're really excited about that and the feedback that we get there. So, I think, looking far out into the future, and these are some of the discussions that my CEO and I have had. We'd love for Averi to do things as a normal team member, join your calls, offer, strategy, be able to jam with you, remember all of it, and basically just, do things. Feel as human as possible, and then all the other core members of your team integrated as well. We just want to, find ways for this to feel natural and like adding, another sidekick core member to your team in the future. And I'm sure that'll change 1,000 times over, but we just have a couple things kind of in the back of our brains here as we're ramping up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, kind of that ultimate sort of agent is kind of the current term, but they're just there, and another team member is a great concept, and I'm sure you guys will get there. Just looking at kind of the agenda and the time, we do focus, shifting gears a little bit, we do focus a little bit on sales and commercial side of things. So I'll ask you for a little story or anecdote, put you on the spot if you have one. If you don't, it's okay, but you're helping marketing and sales guys, and I always love to hear like just kind of a funny story about dealing with a salesperson or maybe a marketing person that you might be able to share for the viewers out there.
Yeah, there's a couple. I won't say specific brand names, but I had a particular brand that I was working with a couple years before I was ever involved with Averi. It was a skincare brand. that had gotten in quite a bit of trouble for some of the ingredients in their product, and their sentiment on social was really not great. And they were they came to us and tasked us to get their sentiment from around 32% to up over 90% in 3 months over the course of a summer. It's really hard to change people's opinions that quickly, especially when it's
a tough ask.
Yeah, especially when it's something that they feel like they've been kind of betrayed on. So dealing with their sales team was pretty interesting because there was a lot that went into that, and having to go to progress meeting calls and things like that, and we're not necessarily meeting those targets. It's tough as a strategy lead to kind of talk the client through, get them to see the vision. We're moving in the right direction, but there's always kind of unrealistic goals when it comes to those kind of things.
Never had unrealistic sales goals in my career.
Right.
Never once happened. Yeah.
No, of course not.
That's great. Yeah, that's tough. You get in a hole and they're like, "Someone get us out." Can you please help us? So that's great. Is there anything, Zach, on your mind that you'd like to just share? I'll just kind of open forum here. Any last thoughts? I know coming to mind. I love the trend about the AI and combining that with people and just really enabling people. I think it's spot on. I can't imagine your users would not really feel that and appreciate it. Zach, any last thoughts that you'd like to share, maybe around marketing trends that impact Averi or kind of the vision you see as we wrap up this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to ask you as a sales guy, and one of the things that I've been asking a lot of my founder buddies and people working within the marketing creative space is kind of how do you envision, the future of AI impacting your industry? I mean, do you think salespeople are going to be obsolete? We're all going to be getting calls from robots? I mean, what do you see in the next 5 years?
It's a great question because to me, they always went hand in hand. As a sales guy, you need a good solution to have something to sell. You can get good salespeople that can find ways, but in the end, is the company strong? And so I do think there's a concept out there that already exists that really in the software space, buyers are about 70% of the way through the buying process before they even talk to a salesperson today. Right. And that's only going to get, I envision a scenario having sold a lot of software where, depending on how companies handle it, if they put a lot of content out there, demonstrations of the product, just make it kind of open book, that's going to allow the GPTs of the world to kind of find, hey, show me 20 demos of a CRM tool that can handle forecasting and with specificity. You're just going to be able to kind of talk to your favorite, AI search, if you will, and probably get a lot of information. And I think it'd be interesting to see which companies maybe hold on to that and try and drive a sales call. Right. You're pretty far. So that I think remains to be seen. But I don't see a world where customers they're getting to 60-70% of the way through. I think they're going to get 80 to 90% of the way through as legal tools become available, contracting tools, purchasing. Kind of let's just get down to where we really just want to talk to someone that knows what they're doing. And I think the salesperson will need to be able to quickly qualify the prospect and have a team of experts from the company ready at hand, because you're going to be at the tail end of what could be a year-long evaluation, and then they find hey, we want to meet someone. Are you the 10th person they met? Are you the first person they met? How do you get good at that? And then I think also it comes back probably to what you guys are doing in the marketing space is how do you become part of that 0 to 70% before it hits a sales guy? How do you you're part of that whole evaluation and conversation so that you're considered, as a vendor versus just, hey, we found you here at the tail end of a long process. We need a quote, and they're not serious about anything. So profound impact on sales. I think a salesperson, particularly in the technology industry, becomes much more of a knowledge expert and bring key resources to bear very quickly to folks that are already very educated about the solution they're presenting. So that's my view on kind of where we're going. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting, man. And I've said this to a number of other people. I feel like AI use is only going to continue to accelerate across industries, but I do think there's going to be a parabolic trend in the sense that so many brands are going to start using this for everything. And the ones that really kind of lean into like the human elements and like maybe the more personal touch are going to be how you stand out in a marketplace. I mean, it's the same way now. You know, a lot of people are going back to film photography, or we have this whole trend of nostalgia. I mean, there's going to be elements that just, people kind of yearn for, human interaction. Like Chewy sends, boxes in the mail of like actual like gift boxes and stuff, and like things like that are, you remember that, right? And you get a customer for life out of that. So I think when everything becomes, so impersonal, the brands that really focus on the human element, I think are going to be, able to win the day.
Yeah, I completely agree. It will become sort of, it's already happened, kind of numb to all the stuff. And you hit it earlier. I like the term as these tools democratize everything and really take all the cost out of being able to create 1,000 variations of a video ad of your product and push them all out. That as it really automates, it's just, as an actual person on the other end, it's just a flood that's going to be unmanageable when we're probably already there in a lot of ways. So who figures out, to your point, who figures out how to differentiate? Kind of back to how do you be different? Be a little different player out there and put people on the other end. And I've actually had some people respond via email more than once in the founder space and say, I read every email, so this is a real response. And back to me like, hey, it didn't just go into you're not speaking to an agent or whatever. So I agree 100%. You got to personalize. So figuring that out will be powerful, which puts Averi right in the middle of it. I think with the way you guys have tackled. So yeah, so folks can find you guys at averi.ai and check out the solutions they have. And to Zach Chmael, thanks so much for joining today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was
the conversation. Awesome. Good luck on the journey. It's going to be wild, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we're still around in 2 years, man.
You will be. You will be. I'm sure you have faith, but you will be. I really appreciate your time today. It's great talking with you.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for having me, Bill.
You bet.